Welcome to Mollyflix. Follow us today to a 2015 American epic revisionist Western survival drama film called The Revenant. Before we begin, please show your support by subscribing. The movie starts with a group of fur trappers, including Hugh Glass and his son, Hawk, sneaking through the forest to hunt animals for their fur. Henry and his group of hunters, including Glass, camp by a river in rural Missouri with other fur trappers. Suddenly, a naked man from their group arrives with an arrow in his back, followed by another man who gets shot in the neck with an arrow. Their camp is attacked by a group of Native Americans called the Iroquois. They fight back using their rifles. Glass is almost killed during the attack, but one of his friends saves him. Realizing they're in danger, Glass urges everyone to get on a boat and escape down the river. Only a few of them manage to get away safely. Glass is hired to lead Henry and the others because he knows the area well. He suggests they leave the boat and go back to their base at Fort Kiowa. But Fitzgerald, another hunter, disagrees, thinking Glass's ideas always lead to trouble. Despite this, they follow Glass's plan to unload their supplies. Henry tells everyone to hide their furs and go back to Fort Kiowa, which is far away. Fitzgerald keeps complaining about Glass's plan, calling it dumb. Even when Henry tries to stop him, Fitzgerald keeps scolding Glass and his son, Hawk. Later, Captain Henry tells the group to go through the forest to get back to their base. Meanwhile, the Pawnee tribe is searching for their chief's daughter who was kidnapped. They find some clues and head north to look for her. The following day, the trappers press on into the woods. While Glass is wandering, he encounters several bear cubs. Suddenly, their mother charges at him, attacking fiercely and throwing him around as he struggles to defend himself. Seizing an opportunity, Glass grabs his rifle and fires at the bear, but he is pushed back and injured. In desperation, Glass uses his dagger to stab the bear multiple times, causing both of them to tumble down the slope. Eventually, the mother bear is killed, but Glass is left severely wounded. He is discovered by some members of the crew who provide him with first aid. However, his injuries are so severe that they fear he may not survive and consider leaving him behind. Meanwhile, at the Pawnee camp, a Frenchman approaches and negotiates with the tribal leader. The chief requests horses and guns from the French in exchange for pelts to aid in the search for his daughter. After inspecting the pelts, which bear markings indicating they were intended for cheaper distribution, the Frenchman continues to haggle. Eventually, he agrees to the deal and provides the chief with 5 horses. In the meantime, Henry devises a new plan. He divides the group of 9 survivors into 2 teams. The first team leads the way, scouting ahead, while the second team follows, carrying Glass. At this point, Glass is lying on the ground, with Hawk by his side, offering support and comfort as he battles through the pain. In the snowy morning, the team carries Glass on a stretcher, slowly making their way to their base. However, the harsh weather and Glass's worsening condition only worsen the situation. The crew is exhausted, and Fitzgerald suggests that they should put Glass out of his misery. Although Henry can't bring himself to do it, they agree to leave 3 men behind to care for Glass, including his son Hawk. Jim Bridger, a young trapper, volunteers to stay without payment from Henry. Fitzgerald offers to stay as well but asks for $300 from Henry to compensate for the lost pelts. Before parting, Fitzgerald assures Henry that he will care for Glass until the end and give him a proper burial. As Glass lies down, he reminisces about his family and recalls the tragic memory of his wife's death. After Henry and the others leave, Fitzgerald tries to kill Glass by forcing him into a pit. Luckily, Hawk intervenes, but Fitzgerald murders him to cover up his crime. When Jim returns, Hawk is missing and Fitzgerald pretends to be unaware. However, Glass witnesses everything and gives Fitzgerald a hostile look. Later that night, Fitzgerald wakes Jim, claiming there's an Iroquois attack and they must flee. Before leaving, Fitzgerald tries to kill Glass, but Jim intervenes to stop him. He then instructs Jim to kill Glass so he can escape. However, Jim struggles to do it and leaves a water canteen for Glass before following Fitzgerald. Meanwhile, Henry and his group head back to Fort Kiowa via the waterfall. Despite being trapped in the pit, Glass eventually manages to climb out and searches for his son. He finds Hawk lying motionless at a tree stump. Meanwhile, Fitzgerald and Jim continue toward the base. Glass realizes he can't save Hawk and crawls alone in search of help. He reaches the riverbank and finds shelter in a small cave. Soon after, he encounters the Iroquois tribe and attempts to flee. He plunges down a waterfall and clings to a tree to survive. Meanwhile, Fitzgerald and Jim encounter a survivor village, but only Jim helps the resident, leaving food secretly. The next day, Glass awakens and encounters a Pawnee man, Haikuk, who sympathizes with his loss. Despite Glass's anger, Hickok advises against revenge. Meanwhile, Jim and Fitzgerald reach Fort Kiowa. While Fitzgerald lies about Glass's death, Jim feels guilty and refuses payment before leaving. Back with Glass, he and Hickok bond, but a snowstorm hits, leaving Glass unconscious. Hickok constructs a sweat lodge to help Glass recover, during which Glass dreams of reuniting with his son. When he wakes, Glass finds Hickok dead, hanged on a nearby tree, indicating that he was killed by the French campers nearby. During this time, the Pawnee tribe is searching for the chief's daughter, Powaka, and appears to have information about her whereabouts. At the French camp, Glass hides behind the horses when he witnesses one of them dragging Powaka to a secluded area. Acting quickly, Glass takes down one of the Frenchmen with a gun, rescuing Powaka. As the others approach, Glass shoots one of them dead and flees with a horse. Powaka heads to a stream in the forest while Glass decides to rest in a remote location. The next morning, Glass is attacked by the Arikara unexpectedly. He escapes on horseback, but they both fall off a cliff. Upon waking up, Glass finds himself in a snowfall, with the horse dead. He takes shelter inside the horse's carcass to endure the harsh weather and continues his journey in the morning, seeking revenge against Fitzgerald for his son's death. At Henry's camp, a frightened French survivor seeks help, revealing that he escaped an Arikara attack and brings a canteen identical to the one Jim left for Glass. With Fitzgerald spreading the news of Glass's demise, everyone assumes his son Hawk might still be alive. Henry and his trappers set out to find Hawk, while Fitzgerald remains at the base. At nightfall, they find Glass exhausted in the forest. When they return, Henry confronts Fitzgerald, who has fled after stealing money from Henry's safe. Angry and betrayed, Henry berates Jim, thinking he was complicit in Fitzgerald's deception. Glass reveals to Henry that Jim wasn't present when Fitzgerald killed Hawk. Although Jim knows Glass survived, he was coerced by Fitzgerald. Now, Glass seeks a horse to pursue Fitzgerald for vengeance. The following day, Glass and Henry ride out to track Fitzgerald. Glass sees some signs of a campfire, which tells him that Fitzgerald isn't too far away. As they stop for the night, Henry tells Glass he's worried because he's always away from his family and he's afraid they might forget about him. He then asks Glass about the attack on their village, where Glass killed an officer. Glass explains he did it to save his son from being killed by the officer. The next morning, they agree to split up, hoping to search more ground. Henry locates Fitzgerald first and intends to take him back to face trial for murder. They both pull out their guns, and Fitzgerald shoots Henry dead. Glass hears the gunshot, rushes to help, but arrives too late. Henry is already dead. Glass then loads Henry's body onto the horse and continues on his mission. Fitzgerald spots Glass from above and fires at him. He rushes down to check on Glass, but it turns out to be a setup. It's Henry's body on the horse. Glass, who is lying on the other horse, manages to fire a shot, injuring Fitzgerald, who flees while Glass chases him. They confront each other in the woods and Fitzgerald shoots at Glass. Glass chases after him and the two stops at the stream bank. They start a really rough fight. Fitzgerald almost stabs Glass with the knife, but Glass manages to turn things around. He cuts off some of Fitzgerald's fingers and almost chokes him until Fitzgerald says that killing him won't bring his son back. Across the creek, Glass sees the Native Americans who have been following him. He concludes that revenge is out of his hands, so he shoves Fitzgerald into the water, letting him float towards the Native Americans. The leader grabs Fitzgerald and ends him with his knife. As they approach Glass, instead of seeking vengeance, the tribal chief expresses gratitude for saving his daughter, Powaka. Despite achieving his revenge, Glass finds himself alone once more, wandering through the cold landscape. He collapses on his knees and sees a vision of his wife's spirit walking into the light. The final shot is of Glass' eyes filling up with tears. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe for more content like this, and don't forget to turn on notifications to stay updated. Thank you for watching.